Well, I've created this video to help better explain what I mean by using a data binder in your science class. So this is the finished product of my science data binder. Before I made this, I used this form for science. There's a link to this in the presentation on the resources page. It's also linked on the science example page. So if you want to use this, you just simply make a copy of it and change it to whatever you need. Now, I do not want to even pretend to be a science teacher, so I'm not going to, but I created an example that I think might be useful for you. So I've created these here in order to get the correct number of columns on my data binder spreadsheet. That way I'm not trying to add columns later, and it just makes life easier. So I have my identification column here. If we see here, I have it as standards here. There's my standard and my topic. There's two columns that I need for that. I left some space in here so that students could write the topic out. So we're going to choose the topic of solubility. So this is standard 4, and again, I'm totally making this up. But then I created this Common Core Skills for ELA and Math, which shouldn't be ELA, but we'll say Science and Math. That makes more sense there. So these are skills that I would want my science students to be using on a daily basis. Every assignment that I take for a grade, they should be using these skills. Again, this is hypothetical. You might have totally different ideas. I may be way off base. You're not hurting my feelings if I'm way off base. Maybe these help, maybe these don't. Feel free to change them out. This is just an example. So I want students always observing, identifying the problem. Another thing that I would give them points for is their use of math, their data analysis. So these would be Common Core skills or cross-curricular as well. And then I'd want them to be able to communicate their ideas or their findings as well. So these would be something that I would always do on my assignments. I like to keep my assignments similar so that students know what's expected of them, and it makes grading become easier, and they start to perform a little better. So then that takes us to my targeted science skills or knowledge. I said our topic is solubility, so maybe students are determining the solubility of salt in water, so they have to answer some questions with that. Maybe they're doing this by performing a lab or writing a paper about this. I'd probably use a lab, right? You guys do lots of labs in class. So my second answer, they'd have to figure out the solubility of sugar in water. And then finally, chlorine. So these would be my 3 answers here. Now if I go back to my data binder, I'm not going to write those up there. I'm going to leave these as first answer, second answer, and third answer. But when I'm grading this lab or this paper or whatever activity I'm having them do, they would get points in each of these categories. So that would make up my performance assessment score here. Your performance assessment can be anything. It can be homework. In science, this would really work well for labs, I believe. It could be a writing assignment or a written response or a speech or a presentation that they give. And again, you could use these same 4 as your basic skills that they're going to be using every day and change out these 3 answers, these 3 different answers. So to get this performance assessment score, I simply add up all of these categories. And I'm a social studies teacher, so I have to give them a quiz. It's just what I do. So I give them a quiz. So then I would add the performance assessment score with the quiz score, and that would give me a topic score. So then they would go through here and color each box based on what the scale said. Again, these scales can be changed. So if my next topic here is my next standard is standard 5, that deals with types of rocks. So then again, I would have students do another lab, and I would grade them on these 4 Common Core skills for the lab, and maybe they're figuring out what type of rock it is, and can they clearly identify one type versus the other.